Welcome to my show, Musings from 20th Street. My name is Dr. Jane Goldberg, and I am a psychoanalyst. I am also the owner of La Casa Day Spa, which is on East 20th Street. Today we're here to do the 33rd session of my Really Real Reality group therapy. And I wanted to start by making note of the fact that Kay and Barbara in the last session expressed that they were fearful of Walter. So I wanted to talk a little about danger. How do I recognize when I'm in danger? I do it based on how I feel usually. So if I feel afraid, then I might conclude that I'm in danger. Or I might have another conclusion. I might conclude that there's something in my history where my brain is processing the information in a similar way to something that happened to me when I was young, when I really was in danger. And now the same thing, it's like a tape that's repeating itself. It's coming again. But in fact, I'm not really in danger. And so it's very important that we be able to know what our history is, to be able to differentiate between what our emotional past is and what our emotional present is, so that we know, as I have referred to in past sessions, the reality principle. And in this case, whether or not Kay and Barbara are truly in danger, because Walter is a violent person, likely to act out in terms of his behavior in a violent manner. So it is my belief that Barbara and Kay are not in danger from Walter. But as I said in a prior session, just telling somebody what is not a way of helping them to resolve anything. So that being said, let's see where we want to take the group today. Actually, I wanted to address Molly, because I think, Molly, right before the session started, you said you were bored. So I think you're either going to, and then you said something else. You said that everybody's just repeating their old patterns and it's getting a little tiresome. So I think this is a really pivotal point for you, that either you're going to fall into depression or you're going to fall into anger. And you know which side I'm going to vote for there. So if you don't talk about your dissatisfaction about the group process, depression is your destiny.
I guess anger is more appropriate, but I'm more actually interested why people. It's more frustrating to me why people, if they realize that there is a cure, that they seem to be completely disinterested in following what you say. You know, it's like, Walter, she has certain guidelines that are curative, according to her.
Or what?
Curative, right? And yet, for whatever reason, you are fighting it, kicking and screaming, and it's like what you're doing right now probably, doesn't seem to be working, or else you wouldn't be here. You know, so if you're here, why not just follow what her version of the cure is, regardless of what happens in any.
It's interesting that you say that, because I regard myself as being, in some of the significant ways, especially about this thing with my anger. I don't want you to. This thing with regard to my anger. I understand. I'm in compliance.
No, but you're not answering.
You didn't answer a question.
I'm in compliance with what she wants.
No, you're not.
No,
you're
you're
not
not.
letting her finish.
You're not
Listen
interested
to what
in.
she's saying.
I heard the essence of it.
No, let
No,
her
you didn't.
finish.
Well, tell me what I missed. All right.
Okay, you
What do you
don't
think I missed?
want to follow her rules, right? And part of her cure is her rules.
So what's the problem?
So
with
what's
that?
the problem?
Well,
What's the
all right. So I just did address that already. I say I'm following her rules in regard to this major issue having come up about my anger and people's fear.
I only
No.
have one. I only have one problem with you. I think you absolutely are a great patient, and you are totally following the rules. You're staying in your seat. You're taking your portion of the talking time. You're talking about your feelings. The only complaint I have about your functioning in this room is when your volume goes up. It's the only one.
It's
Well,
more
no,
than
no, no,
that,
actually,
Jane. It's more
but
than
then, but
that.
It's
then
not.
he's,
Excuse me. It's not more than that for me.
But
Really?
it is for us.
Oh,
Well, it wasn't
Not-
a minute
not
ago.
us.
It was
You
because,
can
I'm
speak
not
for
us.
yourself,
okay.
but don't speak for me.
All right, can I? Go
But
ahead.
Jane, it was the last session because the issue was that he was talking between sessions.
Yes.
That was the issue. That's what she's talking
That's what
about.
she's
well, I
talking
just
about,
noticed
among other
that
things.
there was some non-compliance with.
Right, the violent
And,
stuff is.
no,
yeah.
but there was other stuff.
Is
in
that the issue we're bringing up? Not the anger, but the talking between sessions?
Yes.
just
That's part of it.
every
One-
every time there is resistance to whatever rule she has, right? It
That
doesn't.
being
Yeah.
one of them.
Then it's boring for me because it's sort of like, why are
Here we
you
go
here
again.
if and trying to learn, get the cure a la Jane if you're not interested in following what the prescription is? Forget about rules.
Well, the rule does say, as I understand it, that I can be as uninterested as I want while following it. And if you looked at the last break, I believe I pretty well followed it. When yes, there was talk that we were all doing at some point, but it seemed to be off the subject of the prior session. And when Jane wanted the silence, I was, for the most part, quiet. I think I
You
made
were
one-
then. You were then. One time. So
One time.
now she's just
Yeah,
asking
and-
why you have an issue with following rules. though.
Also,
That's all
Just
she's
in
asking.
general.
Walter.
In general, in
just in
Yeah,
general,
yeah.
this is. I mean, I can bring up specifics, but it's just fascinating to me that Jane says, okay, put your thoughts and feelings into words, and that'll cure you. Okay, and then I noticed that I wasn't doing it for whatever reason, and I thought, okay, I'm here to follow the method to see if I can get a cure. So, okay, I can do this. It's not that difficult, and just if I repeat it, if I do
I
it
can
enough,
answer.
then maybe I might, maybe I not be cured, but at least I'll have made some progress using her
Doing her
approach.
approach.
I can answer you. Though there are some rules that I am at odds with,
Uh-huh.
I believe and somewhat feel that there is still a lot for me to get here.
Okay.
Molly, you brought up such an
Okay.
important part
Have
about,
gotten.
about Walter and rules. Part of my fear is based on people who cannot follow simple rules, like you don't hit.
Or you don't
Good.
yell and raise
Right,
your voice.
right.
And
People
chase you
who
to
are-
the other chair.
Right. So that's just one more step away from what I feel is a violent
You don't
personality.
understand what
Pardon
we're
me,
feeling,
that
Walter.
word Chase.
Walter.
Well, I don't know. You don't like these
get
rules. What
what
about
we're
those
She
rules?
moved on her own account.
We don't, you don't, there's a reason
I didn't
why
move on
we
my
want,
own.
I
don't want to
offered
sit
it.
next
I
to
offered
you.
I
it.
didn't move on my own account.
No,
I asked-
We're
I'm
feeling
I
going.
suggested.
threatened
Excuse
by
me,
it.
I'm
Sit
going
in
to
the
tell you why
Well, still, that
Kay,
was someone
Walter,
else's.
Walter
I
and
didn't move on
Barbara
my own
and
account.
Kay, I'm going to tell you why Kay moved. Kay moved because I told her to. Wasn't because you offered, and it wasn't because you chased her, and it wasn't because she wanted to. It was because I told her to.
I think there was a motivation of her own because she was saying it pretty clearly when she was next to me that she's like
What's
tense
wrong
or
with
something.
that?
No,
I
but
think she's glad
but
she
originally,
moved.
Walter,
Tell me if I'm wrong.
well, I'm
I'm
telling you,
glad
you're
she
wrong.
moved. Yeah, I'm
Walter, hello,
She's glad you moved.
Walter.
Yep.
That's not following a rule. I really would like to be respected, so that when I talk to you, that you actually look at me.
You're
and
making a
listen to me.
mistake, and I'm listening to
One
you.
step from a
While
slap.
No, you're making a mistake. She actually did say that she wanted to move, and I told her that she couldn't, and she was staying in the seat.
right,
And then I changed my mind and told her that she could.
yeah, I understand that.
So she did not make the decision. I made the decision for her.
I understand that.
Because I make all the decisions in this context,
Walter,
of what
you
happens
don't-
here.
I don't think,
except what comes out of each of your individual mouths.
Walter, I don't
I'm
think,
only saying
Walter.
that she wanted to move.
Walter, I don't think.
I understand.
Yes,
what
she
you
did.
said.
She
Walter,
did want to,
I
but
did
that's
want
not why
to.
she did.
Walter,
Yeah,
it's like
I
talking
understand
to
that.
the wall. Well, it's like talking to the wall.
I was speaking to Jane.
Well,
Pardon
there
me.
we go again. You're raising your voice.
Yes,
again.
he
Why,
did.
why can't you?
But Barbara, you have to understand you have a role in it too. He was talking to me, and you were trying to overtalk
Yeah,
him.
he can't
and
complete
that,
a thought when
and
you're
then
talking.
to chastise
He
him.
can't complete that. He keeps going on and on and on.
Right, but I
You're
noticed
not
that when
here.
we're
You're
trying
not-
to talk, you talk compulsively, and you're like, ooh,
Oh, I'm the only one?
You
On
make
and
these
on
nerve.
and on.
You don't know
No, but
what
it's
the
like
fuck is
I
going
can't
on.
fucking hear what he's saying, and I can't follow where he's going. So I would like to be able to process what he's saying so I can have an opinion. But you guys keep like you're haranguing the guy and you keep interrupting
You have
him.
no clue.
It
darling.
doesn't
You
matter
don't
who's
have
the
a
clue. It doesn't matter if
How
you
we are
do
made
it or
to
you do
feel.
it.
Oh, we are trying to speak our feelings.
Okay,
That's not your
John,
feelings,
When she
John.
says to you, you don't have a clue, how does that make you feel?
he doesn't have a clue right now.
How does
Those
that,
are just words.
how does it make you feel when
It
she
doesn't
says you
bother
don't-
me that she says that I have no clue.
Why?
Because I do have a clue of what's going on, and I am listening.
But she's insulting you. Why
I
does
guess
that not
I
bother
don't,
you?
because I don't recognize it as an insult.
Why? It is.
I don't know. It just
It's not.
She's-
an
It just
insult,
doesn't
it's a
bother
fact.
me.
It's she's putting you down.
so should I condemn her for putting me down?
You should have a feeling about it. I don't like being put down. Why wouldn't you
But
have
I
a
don't
feeling about it?
perceive it as being a put down. I don't perceive what she's saying to me. What she's saying to me is being clueless, meaning I haven't been here long enough to process all the individual
what she's saying.
That's
personalities.
exactly
That's
To
what
come,
she's saying.
so she's saying
That's
I'm not
good.
worthy
That's
enough
what
of
she's
coming
saying.
up.
Right.
Right.
what
In other
she's
words,
saying.
since I'm sitting here cold,
Yeah.
right, just
Right.
walking
Well, guess
in.
what? My
Right.
feeling about myself is that I have a right to have an opinion. If I just walked in and a nanosecond, I can have an opinion. I have a right to have an opinion at any point in any time, anywhere in the universe. And I don't want somebody to tell me you can't have an opinion because you haven't been alive long enough. Yeah, you haven't been alive long enough in this room to have an opinion. You have a right to have an opinion, John.
Right. Well, I watched all the shows from the beginning, so I do
Even
have.
if you hadn't, you are entitled to have an opinion.
Yeah. So I'm not bothered by Walter's outbursts or what he's saying. It doesn't offend me. I don't understand why it hurts you or it hurts you or something. To me, I think it's because I have a lot of experience with artists, as I would call them, and I communicate with them like nothing. Like there is no.
John, there is such
No,
a
he
thing.
said he was an amateur boxer. I can relate to that, and I understand where his violence probably comes from. I can probably zone in and say, well, violence isn't always a bad thing.
So-
Sometimes it's a positive thing if it's used correctly.
Okay, I'm going to explain part of what happens in this therapeutic process is that different people have different feelings toward people. And what we do is a process called partial identification. So though it may be true that you have no sense of identification with Walter, you can't find anything in him that you resonate with in terms of who you are, your
I
conflicts.
think that would be dangerous for me to do.
Yes, me too.
But nevertheless, it doesn't mean that John can't do that.
No,
and
absolutely
that John,
not. But if he
and that,
wants to, I would like to warn John, for that my radar spidey sense is up,
Mm-hmm.
and that there is such a thing as predictive behavior.
Mm-hmm.
Violence has a very predictive vein
You
of
just
behavior.
don't go
People
off.
just go off and be violent and shoot people or stab people because they wake up one morning and do that.
But he's
There's-
never killed or shot.
No, I'm
anybody.
Yeah.
talking
Isn't-
about what
Yeah.
leads up to
Yeah.
that.
He's not
John.
going to do anything.
John, I'm
like
talking
You
that.
about-
don't
I'm
know
not.
that,
No, I'm
John.
not.
Walter's
I'm
not.
John,
Walter's
you
a
don't know that.
I really
I'm not
understood.
saying that he's going to. I just wanted you said you couldn't understand my feelings.
Yes.
I'm just trying to paint a picture of where I'm
I
at,
understand how
so
you
that
feel.
you can, have your
no,
whatever.
but
opinion
you
want
are
on it.
doing more than that, Kay.
Well,
You're
she's
also
asserting her-
trying to get John.
to believe me.
Yes.
Yes.
All right, I believe you.
Yes.
If you
I
feel
was
Well, no,
nervous-
No, that
not
her
just
sense,
believe
her
that that's her
sense.
experience.
That's her
She
experience.
wants you to experience it the
Believe.
same way.
to
She
experience
wants
his
you
violence.
to see Walter in the same way she sees Walter.
Yes.
That's
Yeah,
what she
so do
wants.
I. I mean, what's
Yes,
wrong
to
with that?
protect
Because
him
Right here,
from being
Walter.
potentially
Right.
shot.
All right, he wasn't.
No,
What's
I
wrong
like
with it?
Walter.
You're not gonna
I've seen
succeed.
him perform.
Well,
That's the
you're-
difference.
That's true. You know what? Because he's new.
I can
If
try.
you've seen Walter perform,
Yeah, but I don't
if
have
you've
a,
actually seen his work and see him
Oh,
perform.
you have seen him perform.
Yes.
Oh,
What's
my
wrong with that? You see, you're very cynical. It's
I've
like,
seen him
what's
perform
wrong?
too. I've seen him perform in this room.
You've never seen me perform.
I
I'm
see
I
you
a-
just
perform.
met you.
I see you
happen
perform every
to-
time
I've
you
seen
speak.
him before.
I'm not a
You've
fake. You
you've
sound like
seen
Lana. Lana
some of my
was calling me
performance
a
in this
fake.
room.
What?
You've seen some of my
Yes.
performing in this room.
Yes.
Right.
And I've also seen some authentic Walter in this room.
I believe
Oh,
that.
so I'm a fake. Okay, is that what we're saying? I'm doing this.
She's
for
hurting
you.
you.
I think there's a
She's
fine
very
line
That's what
between
I'm
the
really
criminal
pissed
mind
off
and the
right now.
artistic
I really
mind.
am, and I don't like.
And I
She
think
felt like
that-
you called her a
Maybe
fake.
go ahead.
Yeah,
I'm listening.
that's exactly what.
Well, I
Barbara,
didn't-
Barbara, I'm trying to listen to John. He's just got a
I was going to
point
say
that I
that
want to hear.
there's a fine line between the criminal mind and the artistic mind, and they're sort of related in a sense. And I'm not saying he's a criminal.
John, when you
or he's
say
gonna-
criminal, do you mean somebody that slaps?
An
Where
art-
is your
the artist, the unexpurgated artist, is anybody he'll do whatever he wants. He'll He'll rip somebody to pieces. I mean, it's all a
Well,
creative
I've been living
effort.
with an artist for 25 years
But he's not a criminal.
who's not violent.
Right.
So I don't know what your experience. I don't think that's
I think
very
that the
accurate.
creative mind is very untidy.
So,
It's
Kay,
very messy.
you picked a husband that would not in any way stimulate your past. Is that
Oh
correct?
no, absolutely not. He stimulates it in every way.
But not this way. Not this way of being afraid of violence.
Right.
And that's an
You
important
would
way.
be staying with a violent man. Let's
Right.
get
Well,
real. You
I'm
would
not.
kill him.
I'm not. We've had our fights like every other couple has
But
had.
like that.
But we have stimulated both. I mean, that's what couples do. They dredge up each other's dirt
Yeah,
and
but
throw
you
it back in their faces.
Because you can
and
argue.
then they
you
try
can
to iron
argue-
it out. That's
you-
what.
You can
being-
argue too
Yeah,
pretty
but-
loud.
Hey,
You
isn't
can
there
be very
anybody-
intelligent.
I am the violent
up
one,
in a
if
family
anything.
like
in
that?
there.
Yeah.
I was had
Because I was afraid of
I
you in
used
the
to
beginning.
throw
of the
things.
Come on. Did you grow up in a
I
family
was
where
afraid
people
you
spoke
were.
loudly?
You're right. I used to throw things.
Did you
slap,
argue
Some of the time,
punch,
definitely.
We got
My
two
father
things
and my
going on.
mother.
Right.
At times.
I just asked
Absolutely.
Walter.
I'm sorry,
I
we
said.
got a subgroup
I
going
just
there.
asked Walter. I said, have you grown up in a family where people speak loudly and they express themselves loudly, like a father who yells? You think the nervous think he's
I
yelling.
did. I grew up in a house
I
like
think
that.
did you grow up in a?
But I don't want it
Were you
now.
verbal, expressive in your family?
I wasn't, but my mother and father would at times definitely get loud.
Right. So that's probably where it comes from. It's
But
probably
John,
like you-
his intensity was so intense.
You were
I was
here
even a
last
little
week.
freaked out.
We were all.
And I
he was
don't really get
protected.
freaked out easily. It's
It
very
was
intense.
scary.
And maybe that's because he's a performer and he gets into it, whatever.
I don't
but
think that was performing.
completely, very, very intense. The
I'm
intensity was above and beyond
He deserves
feeling
a tone.
comfortable.
Okay,
We
so
want
Molly,
you
are
to
you
believe
sinking into
us.
depression?
I don't think you're
I don't think he
necessarily,
heard
but
you,
it was.
Molly, to be honest.
I did
with
an
you.
argument
I
between
don't think
parts
he
of
heard
myself
Okay.
you at all.
on stage.
Can
and
we
I really got
can we
it
find out how Molly's
a
doing?
couple of months back.
No, I was thinking how I felt. I just like, I was just thought this is so pathetic,
Pathetic or prophetic?
Pathetic.
Oh, I think so.
What's
Pathetic.
pathetic?
When
Why
you
is it
had your
pathetic?
outburst, I thought, my God, this guy, to be heard, he has to shout.
Yeah, all
and
the
stomp
time. All
around.
the time.
And, I just thought this is really pathetic.
Brings up the association of people who take the attitude they won't lower themselves by participating, by having like an argument or something with somebody. And I say, participate. If there's anger, share an argument. That's
didn't
the
have any
major
anger.
sickness
Listen, I
going
want
on
to
in
say
the world
if I had
that
the
keeps us at
perception
war.
that
That-
that somebody in
I wanna
order
speak
to
here.
be
I'm gonna
heard
say a little.
had to yell, I would feel very sad. That would give me a very sad feeling.
Sad. That he's yelling?
Oh, shouldn't you feel it's pathetic?
And I feel threatened.
I was scared
I
and
feel
sad,
threatened.
actually. First I was kind of scared, and then I was
I
sad.
feel oppressed at times by
Because I felt like it didn't
If you
feel
had done
well.
that to me
fear
in the
of you
street-
too. I seem to associate it some.
You're not even
with
apologetic
my
for
mother.
it.
You never even
Walter,
said
you don't
were
even care
sorry,
if you
Walter.
scare the
I
shit out
feel
of us.
oppressed in a way
Oh, here
that
he goes.
makes
He doesn't
me
hear what
more
we're
angry
saying.
at
He's in
times,
another.
terrifically
he's like
frustrated.
Okay,
Like,
so I want to
have this
know,
anger
Even
and there's
I want to know the
no
impact
chance it's
of
gonna
what
be allowed.
Walter. I want to
Bullshit.
Barbara and Walter. I want to know the impact of what I said on Molly. When I said that it would make me feel sad.
Yeah, I think that's a good response.
Jane, would you repeat that? What you were asking her?
She wanted to hear what I thought about what her response was. The fact that she was sad.
Thanks.
If someone had to express themselves by yelling, that it would make her feel sad, and that resonates.
Walter, it scares the hell out of you that you're sick, doesn't it? Does that? I feel like you're really frustrated and you're scared because of your physical condition. Because last week that's how I felt about it. Like I felt like you were
It's very
kind of
intuitive.
acting out
Sometimes
because
I get like that. I think some of the time I'm too blasé, but then at times I really feel it, and I'll say the words to myself. I'm sick. Not something like that. I'm sick. I just really put the realization to myself.
But is that why maybe you acted out that way? Is because you were, especially that day, were feeling very just frustrated it.
and
So does the
Right.
kids.
encapsulating.
No, it is help
I
because it
was
is selfish.
Worse.
shy as a child and as a teenager, and then in my 20s, I got into therapy and I learned to box and I learned to express my anger. And since then, I'm a shouter. I'm okay with arguing
We're not okay with it.
in
That's what we're
But you
saying.
gotta
We're
realize
not
that
situations,
okay with it.
and since my
It's
heart
no.
condition, the surgery, it's the same way.
Give us a heart attack.
I'm still okay with.
I
Yeah, but
think
you shouldn't shout at strangers.
You don't shout at people like us.
I don't
what do you do
barely
in the
know you.
street? What are you going to do in the street if somebody?
Well, we weren't quite strangers
pushes
though. I
you?
mean, we were in
We're not friends,
a situation
Walter.
that does.
But again, it
encourage
comes around
some
to the
kind of
rules
emotional
that
intimacy.
She
that
said
Dr.
you
Jane
can't
has.
yell. She
Again,
said
it comes
this
around
many
to those
times,
rules. So
Walter.
that's
Barbara,
I'm sorry.
again, it comes around to the rules that Jane talked about. So it's just not part of the deal. It doesn't make people feel comfortable.
No, tell them what
It
the
doesn't
rule
help in the
is.
process.
It's too much for me some of the time.
Tell 'em
It's
what
too
the
much for
rule
me.
is. I don't think
If
he
I
knows what
really
your
feel frustrated, if I feel like Barbara will talk on and on and
I know,
on,
and then
I
you
can't get
just-
through, or
That
or
can
I
be
just-
Oh,
at
excuse me.
times-
You don't go to
Walter,
on
that
and
can
be
on.
frustrating.
You yell on and on and on and
I know,
on and
I know.
on and on.
Not
And
as
you
much as
frustrate
you.
each other. You frustrate each
Because
other.
I feel like I have my brother sitting in the room.
he is your brother.
No. You know what? I don't even.
You said it first.
You know what, honey? This isn't even funny to me, and you're making a joke, and I don't find you amusing right now. All right?
Well, what
Sorry.
about is your brother? Do
Well,
you have a
he's-
This is
brother?
not a comedy
But what
show.
he's saying, Barbara, is what I said. Walter is your best friend in this room.
I don't need to
I don't
face
believe
my
that.
brother. I don't talk to my
You
brother
do need to.
anymore. No, I will never talk to
You
him.
He's
need,
right here.
You need to
Never
face
happening.
whatever is unresolved for
There's
you.
a lot unresolved.
Right.
Okay.
And Walter
some
represents
things
a lot
are better
of it.
left
unresolved. Thank
Jane,
you.
especially
yeah.
when it deals
there's a
with
lot
violence.
of. There's a lot of.
You can't just keep bringing that shit up
Yeah,
in your
yeah,
life
and-
over
Yes,
and over and
Kay,
reliving
Kay,
it
you're
every day.
absolutely right.
You got to
It's
grow
unhealthy.
up.
If in fact you are being physically abused, that is a situation that you should not be dealing with, and you should get out of it. And if you can't get out of it, you have to understand. You have to explore the reasons why you can't get out of it. But you are not being physically abused in this room. You are only being
Emotionally.
you are
Emotionally
only
abused.
being yelled at.
That's emotional
They're
abuse.
emotional abuse.
Sometimes that happens in therapy.
Yes.
Yeah,
In
but
group
I-
mem-
And,
the thing
and
about
I'm
group
frustrated that nobody believes
Nobody-
me that he's a
right.
potential loose cannon.
Right.
Nobody believes this
No, we
man
know he's
who
a
hates rules
we
is
know he's
capable
a
of
loose
taking a gun
cannon
and
and
shooting
shooting
us.
us.
and we
Yeah.
know he hates rules. The only question that I'm having, the difference of opinion I'm having with you, is whether or not he's actually going to be able to get out of his chair and inflict damage
What
to
about
somebody.
after we get
And it's
out?
not. And the reason why I'm confident that that's not going to happen is it is true that I trust that he's not going to do it, but it is even more true that I trust that I'm not going to allow it to happen. So in saying that you're afraid that it might happen is also saying that you don't trust me.
You. Yeah, I
Can I
don't,
tell you
I'm
something,
having
Jane?
trouble.
His anger
I'm
is
having
what you
trouble.
see in mental hospitals. It's because that's why I was only in one when I was 16, and I was the most normal person there because there were people killing people and screening people and just going off on each other for no reason.
But you weren't one of them.
I would be
No,
You're
I
afraid.
condemning them, but you were
No, I
one of them.
wasn't. And I said to my mother, if you don't get me out
Barbara,
of here.
wouldn't you be
Hypocrisy.
afraid if he knew where you lived?
Oh, hell yeah. I would move.
And that's why group therapy
I
is
would
anonymous.
move.
I
No,
get
it's
a
not that
tremendous
anonymous.
sense of
We
frustration
don't-
with you, Barbara.
Well, you're not even
How
apologetic.
You have you
don't
apologized
know
to
me.
us?
You
Have
don't
you
know me.
apologized?
You're
Have
creating
you
a
Why
whole
won't you
arrangement of
apologize?
things
It's
about
diarrhea.
me. You don't
Have you
know me.
apologized for
Why
your
don't you
actions?
care how you're making other people feel?
You don't give a fuck what you're doing, making
You
other
just
people
want to
feel.
shit
You don't
in your
care
diapers.
how I feel.
Diarrhea.
Uh,
Diarrhea
It doesn't
of the
matter
mouth.
to you
Okay.
that keeping it
It's
anger
really
is
a
painful.
great
He's not
question.
getting it.
And if it were asked in a way that actually showed interest in him, you might get an answer.
He has never
Well,
apologized.
as opposed to
I got it.
an
you
accusation.
apologize?
Go ahead, try to do
Walter,
it
why
at his
don't
level.
you care about that your behavior is causing anxiety and fear in myself and Barbara to a point where I would be fearful if you knew where I lived. I thought I feel you're the type of personality who could go out, get a gun, and shoot everybody just because you're frustrated and angry.
Mhm.
And I want to know why you don't care about that.
Or apologetic.
Okay.
Or why didn't you say, Kay, I'm so sorry that I'm making you feel that way. I'll tone it down. I'm a little loud. I'm a little artistic. I go off the deep end sometimes. I really don't mean to be that way. But you mean to be that way. And therein lies the danger with your
That's the
behavior.
point.
Your intent.
that you are intent on making us feel scared.
It
You,
was
were-
a-
you get
It was
off
a good
on it,
start,
Walter.
but the finish was
You
kind
get
of
off on it.
A little.
You're getting.
You-
Oh,
you were
I
getting-
am accusatory.
My father got
I'm
off
even
on
more
it.
convinced now that his intent
Okay,
is
so
to create
wait,
fear.
getting
I'd like to
off on it.
answer Kay.
if I actually were an analyst in this room,
I'd like to answer Kay.
the way I would ask the question, Walter, would be something like, I have the impression that there's a dynamic going on between you and some of the group members that they feel fearful of you, and it appears as though they have requested that you in some way modify your behavior, it appears as though you don't entirely want to cooperate with their request for behavior modification. So I'm curious about that. I'm curious about what that means in terms of who you are and what you want to accomplish, and how you see being in the world.
I'd like to answer that,
And I'd love to hear the answer.
and I'd like to answer it while I answer Kay, because she just.
It's really the
asked me
same
a question.
I
Now
just
that-
just reworded it. It's the same question.
Now that you've spoken the way that you have, I can't say that I totally don't care, but I just feel it like I cannot accept it.
What, except the fact you don't care?
No. What you want me to do, that you want me to speak at this kind of tone now, basically, with a little variation, I'm sure.
No, I never
Little
asked you
how.
that, Walter. I asked you to apologize
This
in
kind
the
of
first
tone.
place
You want
for
me
your,
to speak
your
at-
other way.
You want me to
Where's
speak at this
you-
kind of tone,
Why
too.
can't you apologize to people? What is your problem with the apology?
Therapy is
I'm
never having
sorry.
to say you're
I am-
sorry.
I
I
apologize
regard
to
my
you.
answer to you as dealing with that question, too.
Why won't you help me get through this by first? I'm telling you what I need. I need to start with an apology. Why can't you do that for me? Why are you so
You don't
selfish?
fucking listen.
Look at
You
you.
don't fucking
Getting
listen.
loud.
I'm
Yeah,
getting
you
loud.
you bring it out of us because now we're back in our own past.
Why
Thanks
can't-
for bringing our past back, which we're trying to move on from, Walter. Does that not concern you?
Because
okay,
I hope the
says-
time comes
Good point.
when you say
Thank
that
you.
in a much different tone.
Yes.
When the thanks is not so
because
fast.
you
Yeah,
get what
right,
you
you're-
give.
I think
You're-
you're,
you're-
you're
y'all are
forcing
barraging
You're trying to
him.
force him to apologize
Yes.
for something
Right.
that he may not feel he
Right.
needs to
I'm trying to
apologize
force
for.
He's
him.
not aware.
Because this is
He's
police.
Because if he
not
says he's
aware.
sorry,
Assumption,
then it's
assumption.
true that he did what he did and his intent was real. So
Kay.
if he says sorry, then he is the
Kay.
serial
Yes.
killer.
What does it
Kay.
matter?
But he's
What-
not.
Kay.
if I need to
Kay.
hear that at this time,
Kay.
what
I
does
need
it
to hear
matter?
it.
Right, I
I'm
would-
asking you as
Kay,
a friend.
Kay,
Right.
you're a really smart woman, and I know you're smarter than this. I know that you have to see that at times the shortest distance between 2 points is not a straight line. I think you can be smarter in how you're communicating with Walter, and you will get what you want. But you can't be barraging him. You have to help him to come to the point where he wants to give you what you
Oh,
want.
but he has to help me first.
I'm helping you first.
So you give me the apology. It's from Walter.
I don't want to apologize.
That
to
will
you.
help me.
I'm not going to apologize. I'm going to tell you that I think Walter has an issue about cooperation, and that we're going to spend time in this group trying to understand
Okay,
it.
so he doesn't want to help me feel better by apologizing,
correct.
whether it's true or whether it's not.
That's
If
correct.
I need to hear those words, that the sky is purple, and I need to hear them now from you, and you care about me, you'll tell me, hey, the sky
That's
is
right.
purple.
I spent my
So
whole
he
life
will not-
trying
He
to get
hasn't-
away
yes,
from this,
we
all right?
have
I
to
don't even
stop
get back at it
now.
anymore.
He has an issue about being able to cooperate. We've pointed out in the past, and we're going to continue studying it. Thank you.
Isn't there an old saying, if
bad
you yield,
feelings.
that
I
person
don't
will
need
yield.
this.
If you yield to nature, nature
Yes.
will yield back.
Yes.
I don't think there's yielding going
I don't
on.
I
feel
agree.
like I want to apologize to you, Kay. I don't feel like I want to apologize to Barbara either.
Why not?
Because it's
Oh,
as
go
much as
put
saying,
yourself.
I submit.
I spent
I
my
submit.
I'm,
I
te-
did
I'm
something
telling
wrong.
you why not. Because you're not showing interest in him. You're just telling him where you're at and barraging him, yes, with your need. Right. Right. If you show interest in him, he'll be at your feet.